Audible to you?
Huda, you can start.
Okay, thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all the participants and the speaker of this session. Today we have very great privilege to have Professor Sanjeev Sopat sir with us. He is presently working as a professor and the head Computer Science and Engineering Department, Punjab Engineering College, Deemed University, Chandigarh, with an overall experience of more than 30 years in teaching, research, and consultation. During this period, he has held the position of Dean Student Affairs, Dean Academic Affairs, and Deputy Director at Punjab Engineering College. Based upon his professional experience, he has been invited as a technical consultant for many prestigious projects at both the state and national level, including the project on cybercrime and criminal tracking network system. He has been consulted widely and invited to deliver presentations at many academic and non other higher level seminars in India, UK, Malaysia, and Singapore. In addition, he has attended the 4-week IT Strategic UNICE Security Research Winter School, which he worked with other researchers from Singapore, China on the cyber security. Sir has published more than 90 research papers in various national and international conferences and the journals, including Web of Science, SCI, and the Scopus. He has published 3 books. 6 PhDs have been completed, and 8 PhD students are doing their research under his guidance. Today, Sir will enlightening us on very interesting and important topic of NBA, that is attainment of CO, PO, and continuous quality improvement. Now I request Sir to please take over the session and enlightening us upon the attainments of the CO and the PO. Sir, you are most welcome at Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management. Sir, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vishal Jain, for such a nice introduction, I would say. Then Professor Huda for inviting me for this particular session. Maybe we were with Professor Grover. He was interacting with us for designing this particular program. Initially, we were slightly sticky. Can it be a 1-week program? But ultimately, now, after looking at there are more than 100 participants for this program, I'm sure this is becoming a good program. And I'm sure a NBA will also adopt this program as a 1-week orientation program. So, as I say, this is basically a session on attainment of COs, POs, and continuous quality improvement, because basically you define your CO, you define your PO, but how do I find out whether I have attained this or not? Forget about accreditation. This is a general practice which is there as far as new academic norms are concerned. Once we say the outcome-based education, we have to think about for any course, why I'm teaching this particular course, and if I'm conducting a program, why I'm conducting this particular program. Then I define this, based on that, I define program objective, course objective, and then I think about how exactly I can improve upon this. This is the basic thing which I'll be covering up during this particular hour there. Now, maybe this will be a repeating for you. What exactly is the outcome-based education? Basically, it's outcome-based education is an ongoing process. I restructure my curricula, mechanism for assessment, and the practices in education to achieve high order for learning and master them, rather than accumulation of the credit. Let's say in the earlier days, what we used to have was, we used to, okay, I cleared this paper, teacher will go, he will teach. Right? He will teach without realizing whether his students are following the things or not. Now, slowly in this particular process, we have our system move from teaching to the learning stages there. Okay, I'm more concerned about whether whatever is being imparted to them, they're able to learn it or not. And how do I find out whether the fellow whom I said, okay, you have to learn this, whether he's learned it or not. Let's say, if we go to a slightly historical thing, let's say in the earlier days, we used to have a yearly system. What used to be done was, let's say mid-year there will be exam, and final year there will be exam. Now, how does the teacher gets to know whether his students have followed anything or not, while everything has been delivered? Maybe fag end of the year, he gets to know, yes, whatever I was teaching, only 50% of the people could clear. That means rest of the 50% people, I'm not able to teach them anything. This is what used to be the system. And now this moving, then we moved to the semester system. We said, okay, now people are talking about trimester system also. And then we are going for the continuous evaluation also. Continuous evaluation, then we say project based. All are nothing but a part of your outcome based education. Basically, what we are trying to do is, I had to find out whether whatever I'm trying to impart you makes some sense to you or not. That means KSK, usually they maybe, if you look at earlier days, nobody will question a teacher. Nobody will question a faculty member. Let's say 20 years down the line. Okay, whatever teacher teaches, yes, that's what is there. Now the time has changed. Now what the student is looking for is, maybe we usually tell them as our stakeholders, if I am learning this, what will happen if I do a BTech in computer science? What will happen if I don't do BTech in mechanical engineering? Then, if there are a few courses there, usually the student asks my stakeholder, hey, why should I learn this? This is what we say, okay, it's an outcome-based education, where I'm more concerned what will be the outcome once I go through this particular process. Now, once they say, okay, we have got a curricula there, we have got a mechanism for assessment. Now, can I say, okay, usually the teacher, faculty member is asked, how have you taught? He says, I have done wonderful. Because that's a usual thing which happens. The moment you ask any teacher, how was the session? He says, wonderfully you have done. Now, what is his assessment for that? He doesn't know. He says, I had taught it very well. As far as I'm concerned, I had taught it very well. But whether the student had learned it or not, that is not what I had tested. This is what we have to see. Okay, in case I plan a course is there, which I'm teaching, then I have to see whether my student have learned something from there or not. Then I have to find out what is the percentage of the people they have learned and how many people have not learned. Then, let's say I taught a course in 1 year, one semester. There were, my results were 60%. That means 40% people couldn't learn. Then, how exactly I can think about improving this so that my results improves and my satisfaction improves. Let's say, how do I find out whether I had done well? I have to ask my students, whether whatever has been imparted to you, whether you have understood. This is what we have to find out, attainment. Whether whatever I thought of, I'm able to attain it or not. So that's what we say. These are, maybe this is what you have gone through, COs, POs, but we usually say they are the critical terms. Course objectives, program, program outcomes, course outcomes. What we mean by POs are that they are statement which is related to your knowledge, skill, and the attitude. Okay, let's say if I do a program, let's say I do a BTech in computer science and engineering, or I do BTech in pharmacy. Now, what is the thing which has improved in that? That's what we say, the program outcome. Maybe your knowledge, your skill, and more important these days is the attitude. If whatever knowledge you have got, whatever skills you have got, if it's not changed your attitude to work, your work ethics and other things, it doesn't help. Because there is another study, I don't know how many of you know that, these days, the technical knowledge which we gather, which a student have, that has got a life period of not more than 5 years. maybe I'm not talking about the basic sciences courses, which have got a very long lifetime. If I look at any engineering course which is there, the lifetime is usually 5 years. Maybe in computer science, that's what we say. Our any technology, anything that has got a life period of 5 years. Let's say I taught him this, and let's say something which I taught in the first year, he has already spent 4 years with me only. Then afterwards, he goes to the industry. Whatever knowledge he's got, technical knowledge he's got, that has become redundant or irrelevant at that particular time once he reaches to the industry there. Then what sort of skills he has got? Let's say he got a, if I am a computer science people, let's say somebody does something in a language there. By the time he moves out, that language part, there is a lot of a shift which would have happened by this time. Or you think of a database, by the time the database would have changed. That means skills which is developed has got again a life. So that means what we say is, in case the technical knowledge which he has got a life, his skills which has a life, then what else is left? So what we have to think about is what sort of attitude he has developed over there. Now, once we say attitude, it relates to is the way his work ethics, the way he will work, is what we say is his attitude towards work there. Now, in case I have built up that particular skills in that, maybe that skill will last for more than 10-15 years. Whereas his technical skill or the knowledge which is got may not last for 5 years or 6 years. Maybe he's got certain management skills also. Maybe that will last for a longer time. That's what I say. Instead of packing your curricula with all the technical things, in case we can work upon the attitude and the managerial aptitude there. No, this is what we say. POs are the statement about knowledge, skills, and attitude there. This is what we say the attributes which a graduate, once he is graduating, he should be having. And what is his target of the POs which he is to attain? And usually these POs are defined by the accreditation agency or the internationally accreditation agency or NBA in this particular case, India there. And that's what we see the starting point. The moment I had to launch a program, I had to see what is the starting point. Starting point is your, maybe you might have gone to the mission and the vision of an institute. Afterwards, we come out with the program outcome. What sort of program I'm trying to work out upon there only. And your course outcomes, we say this is the statements of observable student sections. What is the knowledge he got in this particular process, what are the skills he imparted, got, and what is the attitude he acquired during the course there. And can I have, there is some evidence to prove he has got it? Because again, I'll come back to the same thing. If I ask my faculty member, let's say you taught a topic, whether the student have understood the topic or not. He says, yes, he is done. Then I say, whether he is able to apply this somewhere. He says, yeah, let's say that I have not tested. Then he says, whether he can apply this in a known situation. That's another question which has to be asked. Then can he apply this particular knowledge in an unknown situation there? So this is what we say. The moment I impart a knowledge, that is a theoretical background which I'm giving. But whatever knowledge I have given to him, whatever skills I have given to him, can he apply them in a known world or an unknown world or a interdisciplinary world? So this is what we have to think about. If we have to see the student action in this particular regard, whether whatever knowledge we are given, whether he is able to apply it. Then is there some attitude change which has happened? Let's say, why do we take student to the workshop? Usually we ask. He can develop some attitude to respect his equipment. work on the equipment and follow the way the equipment has to be worked on. Then in case, why do we make a groups there? That is again to work towards attitude. Maybe we did a very interesting experiment in this only. We wanted to say we have got this sort of a attitude among our students. Okay, in case there are intelligent students, they will like to make a group. So ultimately, what happens was, there were students, we say, who are not a good performers. They at the end of my while making the groups, those are the students who are left over. So in this particular process, it is all the intelligentsia groups which used to be there, and then there is another type of group where people would not know much. What we did was change their attitude towards that. What we did in this particular process was, we told them, okay, you make a group of your choice, but what we say is there should be one student you choose which is having a CGPA greater than 9. Others are two students who are having a CGPA between 8 to 6, and you take one student who's got a CGPA between less than 6 there. There are a lot of resentment among the students, but what our idea was, we would like to change their attitude towards the other students also, because in an industry, if somebody goes, he will never get an environment where all people same type only. Can we give this attitude to the students? They can work in a heterogeneous sort of groups there. So this is what we say attitude as far as student learning is concerned. And each course, as we say, is designed to meet a course outcome there. Every course has got some outcome. Because that's what we say in the layman's term. Okay, in case student ask someone, okay, why should I learn this? Then you say, no, while once you go through this particular course, this is what you will learn in this particular process. Now I have to see whether what sort of attainment, whether every student has learned it, or 70% of the student have learned it, or 50% of the student have learned it. So this is what we see is the attainment. I make some targets, then we have to see how well they have been attained, and the course outcome or the statement in such a way they can be actually measured. What we say is let's say you teach a topic to students, then I would like to see measure. This was my objective. I taught this particular topic, I tested them. Now if everyone is able to attempt that particular question which is from that particular part, that means my attainment level is very high. If let's say I gave, let's say I taught them a topic, and out of that I gave them some case study there, maybe numerical case study or some other study there. Then in case, let's say you imagine a situation, ideal situation, where everyone got 10 out of 10. So can I say 100% attainment is there? Then my next question comes, okay, in case 100% attainment is there, were my measurement criteria too good for that? Was I so obvious? Was my question so obvious that everyone could attempt it? So this is what we say, course outcomes or statement is such a way that they can be actually measured. And POs are attained through program-specific courses only. Let's say corresponding to BTech Computer Science, if there are 30 odd courses which has to go, for each of the course you have to think about the POs, COs corresponding to each of the course, which will lead you to the POs. I think Professor Grover might have talked to you about this mapping and other things. I'm not going to details of this in this section. So this is another type of a small definition of COs, POs which are there. We see the program outcome. These are knowledge and skill set that graduate have at the time of the graduation there. Okay, once you clear the graduation, this is what POs are there. And course outcomes are the knowledge and skill that are attained by graduate in a course. And usually it's a part of a PO only. So what we say is they map, COs are mapped onto the POs. I hope you might have seen there are 12 POs which are there. Now what we have to do is, once we say is a mapping, we each of the course, in case there are some course outcome which has been defined, I had to map them with each of the program outcome there. Now, this is what our observation is. People don't understand this. There are some instances where we have got for certain accreditation. There is a one course which meets all the 12 criteria there. Because in case teacher doesn't understand that, he says all the 12 has been met in this course only. Then usually, if I have got this sort of a 2 or 3 courses, then usual question is, in case your 2 or 3 papers can meet all the 12 POs there, then why should I teach other courses? Let's say, in case you imagine, he does one project, he meets all the 12 criteria there. Then that means I should do only 4 or 5 projects in a semester, and this semester should be over. So this is what. Then another extreme cases which we are seeing is, the POs which are there are some POs which are not met by any of the course there. That's another extreme. That means the curricula which we have defined doesn't meet the requirement of the program outcomes here. So these are some of the things which we have to see, which maybe as an academician we have to see. And once we go as an expert for the MBA, we try to see whether all the POs has been mapped there or not. Let's say this is plan. This is what we say is the planning. You imagine a scheme. So this is what we say. Your curriculum is the one through which we do this particular COPO mapping there. A curriculum, assessment, evaluation are the tools by which program outcomes are attained. How your POs are attained as, it is one is through curriculum, another is through assessment, other is through evaluation only. And that's what we say, how we can go for the attainment is, in case my curriculum as such has been designed very well. 2 yardsticks I told you, I can't imagine a course which can meet all the 12 POs there. And another is, in case I got there is no course which meets one of the POs there. So these are the 2 things which we have to see. That's what this is one of the things which is there. You see the curricula. It is through this only if we try to work out upon the attainments. I talked about this particular COPO matrix there. That's what we say, planning, and then we have to look for the attainment. Attainment is through assessment or through the evaluations, some sort of a sampling there. Now, in curricula, your self-assessment report seeks answer for a process for development of the curricula. Now, is it I have adopted a curricula which has been made by somebody else? Maybe this is what happens in the tier 2 institutes, where your curricula is made by the university. You don't have got much control over there, and whatever curricula comes over there, you have to adopt it. So that's what process for developing a curricula exists and has been followed or not. And another thing we try to see is the well balancing of the curricula there. Now, maybe in engineering, if you look at 10 years back, the more emphasis was there on the technical subjects only. Let's say in case I had to teach someone in one branch, let me say I'll pack this particular curricula with 30 or 30 odd subjects of that branch of engineering only. I'm not so then again there is a lot of a paradigm shift which has happened now. We are thinking about a well-balanced curriculum, not only singly technical curriculum, but it should be well-balanced. That's what we have to see once we have to think about the other thing. The curricula is well-balanced or not. And then the level of syllabus is at the degree level. This is what used to happen in case of a degree, BTech degree in a computer science. Because good or bad, with the BTech computer science, there's so many other similar degree which came up with the picture. Maybe MCA is the one which came up there. PCA is another one. Then people talk about BSc computer science only. Then people talked about BTech IT also. Then people talked about BTech with the specialization some. Then usually the question comes, let's say if I talk about MCA and BTech, or to this extent BTech IT, there are a lot of commonalities there. Maybe Professor Huda will also agree with me. In case I look for the curricula of a BTech computer science and the MCA, most of the subjects which somebody goes through in the MCA, the similar sort of courses are being gone through in the BTech computer science also. So then why should I have these 2 degrees? And if I look at BTech IT there, similar sort of courses are there in that particular BTech IT. That means I couldn't plan up this particular BTech, that I should be able to differentiate between these 3 programs. That's what it's based on the level of syllabus, that what level you have to teach, and does it allow NBA program outcomes to be attained? This is the most critical part. Whatever program outcomes are there, I have to see whatever curriculum we are teaching, does it allow us to attain that particular outcomes or not? As I said, there may be chances in case some of the outcomes I'm not able to attain during a program there. I have to think about that. So this is what we say to theme, process, and the results. We usually say this is a basic philosophy. We start, we process, we question. Now, in the earlier days, this questioning was not there. But now we are more concerned for any process which we have got. We question. Either we stop. If we don't agree with this, again we go back to the process there. This is true for the curriculum development also. Now, usually our first question is, will we able to attain POs under the curricula? If I'm able to attain all the POs under a curricula in a very comprehensive way, yes, I say it's a good curricula. But if I'm not able to attain some of the POs under the curricula, then I say, okay, why should I have this all over curricula? So this is what we have to see as academician. This is what has to be seen by the NBA teams there. Okay, whether whatever curricula is there, is it able to attain all the POs there or not? So this is what we say, participant in the curriculum review, design. Maybe it's true, as I said, it's true for tier 1. Maybe for the other institute, this may not be true. Because in case of a deemed university or a university, they make their own curricula. Then what are the stakeholders or the participants for the curricula there? Maybe your faculty is the one, industry is another one. Academicians from the peer institutes are there, student and alumni are there, and academic bodies are there. Now, in the earlier days, your whole curricula we used to be made by your faculty on. Then there used to be a lot of gaps. Industry doesn't accept a curricula. It doesn't. It is not up to my expectation. Then what people thought was, can I add faculty industry into that? Then I had to see what are the other institutes doing in this particular there. Let's say now earlier it used to be academic from a peer institute. Now people look around how this particular curricula is being designed and delivered in the world around. This is what a model curricula people talk about. How exactly I can think about a curricula which can be adopted by all the other institutes there. Then another stakeholder which we have got is your students. Because your students, how do we take a feedback of a curricular review from the students? Maybe exit survey is the one. The moment student is to leave, a university or a college, then we take the feedback from him. We call it as an exit survey and find out, okay, whatever were the curricula, is it up to his expectations? He says, no, there are some courses which should not be there. There is a repetition in this particular course. This curricular course doesn't have got any objective. This course doesn't have got a relevance. These are some of the things students tell you while they leave the institute. Now, this becomes a feedback loop for you. If from there only you take the feedback and try to improve upon your curricula there. Maybe then alumni. Maybe alumni, in case they just go after 1 year to the other institute, he may not be able to tell you, okay, what sort of a changes and other things he would have done. But you talk to an alumni who has spent 4, 5 years in industry, he will have a better perspective what is taught to an institute there. Then obviously there are academic bodies there. Maybe in case of PEC, we have got a academic planning and monitoring committee there. Or then we have got a DAPC also, institute committees also. Like this, every institute has got their own setup. Every tier 1 institute, they have got their own setup of making this sort of a curricula there. So these are your stakeholders who are there as far as the design of a curricula is there. Now, the curricular committee that needs to keep also the POs. Why I'm having this particular program? Because Professor Grover might have talked to you about the POs. I'm not going to detail of that. Some of the program education objectives you have to define. Why I'm having this particular program here? If I have this program, this will be the outcome of this particular program is the POs. And what are the resources I got? Let's say you plan up a course. Very good program, but the resources I may not be having for the next 10 years. Then why should I plan this sort of a course? This course may be good. There is plenty of resources there, plenty of funds there, where this sort of course can work, but it may not work in my sort of environment. That's what we have to see. POs and resources there. And as I said, the entire responsibility rests with the institute. In case of a tier 1 institute, but in case of a tier 2 institute, that is, he has got the other things to be done. Maybe this is what we say structure of a typical program, broader outlines. You got a mathematics course, physics, engineering, science, humanities, communication. Then there are core courses. I'm not going to detail of this. And then electives are there. Then more important is these days your project, internship, and assignments. Okay, what sort of projects will be there? What sort of internship will be there? And they become the level of your attainments. Okay, in case I would like to find out whether somebody has learned anything in the project. In case there is no project in my curricula, I'll not be able to find out that. Then these days we lay a lot of emphasis upon the internship. You have to go for some internship as far as the institutes are concerned, or you go for some sort of assignments there. Then we have got a content delivery, laboratory work, or the project work, all are part of this thing only. Then now what NB looks for from you is whether whatever is, have you documented the process of development of this curricula or not? If you just give the curricula only to the committee, they may not get satisfied, but they would like to study what's the process there, because we have to talk about the continuous improvement. Now, because if I don't document, because basically what happens in the earlier days was, it's not that people are not having the processes there, but usually this process used to be there in your minds only. As some of you might have heard of this joke, in case you ask a student, hey, have you made a flowchart for this? He says, yes, I made the flowchart. Where have you made it? I made it in my mind only. This is usually while writing a program, maybe computer science people can understand this better. In case I write a program, it's not that I'm not making a flow chart for that, but what I'm doing is I'm not documenting it, but I'm keeping it in my mind. Maybe tomorrow or 10 days back after somebody would like to see the same program, he may not be able to understand this. So this is what we require as far as NBA accreditation processes are concerned, the process of development with this documentation. Because only then I can think about this continuous improvement as far as your curricula is concerned. Now, then your content delivery is important. Okay, class notes of the students, your course file. This most important component is course file. What is there in the course file? All of your accreditation perception which is made, that is through your course file, because that is where all of your faculty is involved here. Whether I have got this particular COPO mapping for a course in your curricula there, and while I have imparted a course, whether I have thought of some modification into the things or not. Well, let's say, usually we look for in a course file, in case somebody has taught a course, at the end of the course, is there some summary there? Okay, how exactly was his experience on teaching of this particular course there? By experience, we mean, okay, let's say there were topics there. Curriculum design committee, in their own wisdom, has given some hours for that. Has he followed the hours in that spirit only? If it is yes, then it's so fine. If it is no, then he has to put in the course file only. Okay, while delivering this particular course, this particular part need more emphasis. This needs lesser emphasis. This particular contents are not required for this particular course. This is what we require. Some of the information which we require for our continuous improvement sake. So this is what most of the things which are there. There are course files which are very important, and where all this information has to be there. Then we have to think about attainment also. In the course file only, we have to imagine how will you attain it. Or let's say you just make a matrix there. You say, okay, this is what you wanted to attain. This is the targets I said. Now, how these targets are met? Let's say you imagine teacher says, okay, this year my results will be 90%. Or my satisfaction level will be 90% for this particular course there. So this is what we say the targets which he sets. Now, how I could see whether attainment is there or not. What will I do? I'll try to find out how many internal exams he's conducted, how many assignments he has done, how many quiz he's taken. Then I try to find out what sort of weightages he has defined for each one of them. Based on the weightage, I try to find what is the attainment of the student in each of the. Let's say in one there is one quiz which was conducted, and I said it will have a weightage of 20%. I like to see attainment of that. I see all the marks which has been scored by the students. How many students have scored less than 30%? How many? Because I come out with the statistics, then I try to find out what is my attainment level as far as this particular course is concerned. Maybe my attainment level depends upon various other components also. How many assignments I have given, what is the weightage for each one of them, and then I do the calculation. Maybe I'll come to that also. Then your textbook use, any demo during the lectures, and attending lecture, because most important is whether you are able to attract the students or not. Because you might have seen there are some classes where students go running, and there are some courses where students are being forced to sit in the class because attendance is very compulsory component. So this is what we say course file is the evidence for direct evaluation from the direct evaluation as far as the courses are concerned. And important, as I say, that's what I'm explaining to you. You can't overstate the importance of the course files. Because then another thing which we look for these days is, okay, have we got a progressive course file or not? What's a progressive course file? I hope some of you must be doing it. In case I got a course file, first year I taught, second year I also taught, third year this course has gone to somebody else. Then whatever I had done in the first year, from only I start with my second year and I pass this file to the new instructor whom this particular course has been allocated. So this is what we say the progressive code files. So that is what we say. This is the prime responsibility of the faculty member to see that course file has been created, because this is one of the evidence, one of the level of through which attainment levels are being checked, whether you are able to attain this or not. So this is what we can say. This is a framework, POs, program outcomes, curriculum, teaching, learning, and the course outcomes there. Now, this is what we say the design flow of the curricula. You define POs. Okay, why I want, let's say you are planning a course. Let's say I'm planning a course in strategic management. First of all, there must be some objectives of conducting this particular program. So that becomes your starting point while designing a curricula. And then we try to map this with the program outcomes there. What sort of ambitious program outcomes are there? And can you cover all POs within the criteria required? This is what I was talking about. Whatever are my POs, which I thought should be there, is it, can I have it when, let's say I decided my course curricula will have a credit. Now, is that 162 credit, within that particular 62 credit, am I able to cover up all the POs there? If it is yes, then if then sequence required, else maybe you find out what is to be deleted, what is new to be added, so that I can have a balanced curricula as far as the whole syllabus is. And that's what we say hopefully. Because I can't think of ideal curricula, but there is always some sort of balancing act which we have to do while designing any curricula. Because ultimately this curricula becomes a part where all attainments are based upon this particular curricula. This is a sample there. Okay, let's say there is some electrical circuits and network course which is there. Maybe offered in second or third semester to the electrical students. Usually it's a 310 and it's a compulsory course for any of the branch there. Maybe what is my course objective? I would like a professional to take up the new courses, which is electronic circuits, signal systems, advanced, because there's a prerequisite for that. And let's say my initially start, then I had to think about this particular course. If I model application of a law of physics, that means I'm able to reach my first program outcome there. And if I just teach them Kirchhoff law, voltage, current, sinusoids, that what exactly I'm trying to do is apply knowledge of mathematics. That's again PO1. And I continue with this particular process there. So this is what your curriculum is. Okay, while we say we have to think about this mapping, you have to think about the CO-PO mapping from this point onwards. Okay, which PO is met by which topic there. Then this particular part of teaching will meet the PO part partially, or use of Laplace transforming circuit analysis, again it will be PO1. So maybe within one course only, there may be number of topics which meets only one PO there. So this is what I wanted to drive you at. Okay, every course which we design may be able to meet one or two or more or three or four POs there, but not all POs there. And then you usually put up the textbooks, the reference books. What's the outcome of that? I'll be able to meet this PO1, PO2, and PO5. This is one way of putting the course outcome. Or this is some other way of putting it. Let's say this is digital electronics. A model key maps of logic and logic function. student will be able to simplify Boolean expression. This is my outcome. Okay, once I teach them Karnack, K-map and logic functions with this only, student will be able to simplify some of the Boolean expression. Now, how do I check whether, how do I see the attainment of this particular part there? Okay, let's say you imagine you have to see how this particular attainment is there. If I would like to see this, how can I see this? Maybe if I just see that this particular thing, I taught him this particular thing, K-map, and I gave him 10 problems, and he's able to simplify them. That means my attainment is there. Now, how will I look for the attainment for all the 60 students? In case all the 60 students are able to do all the 10 problems, I will say I am able to attain the whatever this outcome was there, I am able to attain this. Then interference in different logic family, student acquire ability to design digital system by selecting this blah blah. So this is all what we say are some of the things which we say sample COs which one has to attain in this particular process. So this is what we say it's a good practice to embed course outcome in the syllabi only. Maybe earlier days this practice was not there, but now these days this has become a part of the practice there. While you design a curricula, you think about course outcomes and course educational objectives there and put up this in the curriculum there. So that teacher is also well aware of, okay, this is what I had to do. My course outcome should be there in this particular scenario. Maybe you can correlate with the ABET outcomes also. That's one another way of doing it. So this is another way of course outcomes. An ability to apply knowledge, mathematical science. This is A and a K as being mapped with this particular course there. Now, what evaluator looks for in this sort of a scenario? Maybe some of you might be evaluators there for the NBA. The moment they would like to see your curricula, they would like to see what the process of followed within this. They would like to have the participants' agenda and minutes of the meeting, etc. They would like to see, okay, have we minuted it? I'm not saying in the earlier days we were not designing good curricula. We were designing good curricula, but the moment we wanted to improve upon that, some improvement has to be there. We were not able to do that because all minutes and everything were missing. So that's what, and we emphasize these days. You should be minuting it, your agenda and the program there. And course of, we usually say you make it a document, your syllabus, textbook reference material, and the credit structure. And in curricula, what a committee looks for is maybe SAR 6 answers to process for developing the curricula exists as it is followed or not. Usually these days it's a very standard processes which are there. Okay, you think about the stakeholders, think about the POs. Initially you plan POs, then think about the course, think about the POs, think about the stakeholders, then corresponding to POs, you start designing some of the courses. Let's say these 15 courses I teach, then I'll be able to attain it. Then I look for whether the curricula which I define is well balanced or not. Is it a well balanced curriculum or not? And the level of syllabus at the degree, is it degree level syllabus? This is what we see KNB program outcomes to be attained. That's what is the most important component in the curriculum. So this is what your usual question, process for developing the curriculum exists and has been followed or not. Usually it's a yes or no. There is no fuzziness in this. In case I got a curricula, the process has not been followed, we usually say it's a no. This is what our answer is. This is what the things become. Yes, this is a small thing there. My HOD had said, yeah, it's an excellent curriculum. But my evaluator, NBA people, they try to find out, yes, surely it's a great curriculum. But how did it came into being? So these are the two extremes which are there. And in this particular process, if I would like to satisfy my evaluator, I had to think about what sort of process which I followed for making this particular curriculum. Now then, is your curriculum well balanced? This is what we say the balancing act. If I just add something over here, I may disturb the balance. My curriculum may fall into the C on. This is another interesting, I would say, maybe you take 5 minutes to rank the curricular content distribution of the 4 programs in any you imagine your program. Then you think about A, B, C, D. You rank them. Maybe you try it as an assignment only. I'll give you 5 minutes. That will give me certain break also. What I expect is, okay, let's say basic sciences. In your opinion, what is the rank of this? In case I say there should be 20% weightage for that, I should say this is my first rank. Then second rank, I say 15%. Then what sort of percentage I can define for this? Maybe you think about this. Maybe then we discuss in our examples also. Just take 5 minutes, try to find out. Maybe you can imagine your own curricula. Okay, what was a percentage or the whatever the ranks? How will you rank this? Basic sciences, what should be the weightage? Engineering sciences, what should be the weightage? Humanities, social sciences, what should be the weightage? Program code, because that will define how I define my curriculum. One is you try to rank them. Another assignment which you can do at your places also is try to see your curriculum. Let's say you rank according to your wish, then you try to match it, whether whatever ranking you have defined, does it map there or not. Just 5 minutes, take, then I'll start again. Yes, there are some ranks which are coming. That's very interesting. Yeah, there is very interesting things which are coming up now. Yes, program elective. Somebody says it's a 20% weightage there. Okay. Okay, somebody say A in his view. Maybe that is he just wants to concentrate more upon this technical content as compared to some of the other things there. Yes, somebody says program code should be 45. I think this is what I wanted to, this assignment is for this only. I wanted to drive you at how much diversification is there in our thought processes. Somebody says, okay, my program code should be only 20%. Other says, no, it should be 45%. Somebody says 15%. Then in case I have got this sort of things in our minds, how should we conclude? Yes, open elective 10. Yes, somebody says mathematics should be 20%, and somebody says basic sciences should be 20%. And somebody says project should be 30%. That's very good. That's a very forward-looking thinking. Yes, because in the world around, we are taking the project-based teaching these days. Yes, Dr. Shweta, she has given a great thing. How exactly all these things should match. Yes, somebody says no, internship should be 20%. I think this is what we have to debate upon. While design, I am very happy to give this assignment. Now, this is the way I had to think about while designing the curricula. This should be the level of a discussion should be there. Only then we can emerge, and then only then we can think about a good curricula these days. Because ultimately, otherwise, what is happening? Because let me tell you practical things which are happening these days. While making a curricula, people are not fighting for this sort of a structure there. They are fighting for their courses. Okay, I'm teaching this course for the last 10 years. If I'm teaching fluid mechanics for the last 10 years, this has to be there in the curriculum. How to answer those? Because obviously all of you are senior faculty member there. These sort of issues all of you must be facing. How exactly we are to deal with this sort of a thing? Okay, I hope I'm happy all of you try to attempt this particular assignment in your own way there. And this has given you to the feeling how important is this particular aspect there as far as making the curricula. Because this is the basic thing which we have to see. How do I rank this sort of things? So what is the outcome of this particular exercise? I would say I made you to realize that this is one of the important activity there where I have to imagine what should be the content over there for the basic contents there. Now, obviously, there is a lot of diversification there. People have got their own perception. Now, what I would like to have is all of you go to your places, look at your curricula. Where does your curricula fit into this particular scheme of it? Because I wish I would have been there with you in a in-person mode only. Perhaps I usually am very happy to do this sort of assignment with your faculty member, maybe 50, 60, 100 faculty member there. How exactly I have to think about designing a curricula there. But on the online mode, I could concentrate upon your ideas only, where all of you told me, yes, this is what should the weightage. Now it's I want to drive you at is if this sort of a discussion has to be there while we are to make a curricula. This is what is missing. So what we have to say is we have seen that the broad structure of engineering curricula and it should be well balanced, fairly balanced, or it could have been done better. I think these are the three things which we wanted to see. Now, what can it say my curriculum is well balanced? That's what you go homes, see your curricula, see whether you call them as a very well balanced or fairy balanced. What could have been done better? Now, then another thing which experts try to look for is the curricula which is there. Is it of a degree level? This is what we say the judgment call. Usually, we don't debate as experts. We don't debate much on this, but we try to find out whether curriculum, because this is true for some of the universities which are emerging these days. What they do is they make a curricula which is for the average people. So you have to see what sort of things are there. Now, then another thing we have to see is, does the allow the MBA program outcome to be attained? Can I think about judiciously all the outcome which I planned up has been attained in this particular process or not? Now, what we say is if all the four questions can be answered in the formative, job is very well done. Maybe you can impress upon your MBA team if you can prove these four questions, they can be answered. Because this is what we have to go from there onwards, we move to the attainment steps. So this is what we say in your curricula, your teaching, learning, assessment, evaluation, course outcome, program outcome, and if it is true, then it's done. Now, in case of a tier 2 institutes, you have got a very little control over there as far as curricula is concerned, because if I see the list of the institutes who have joined us for this program, maybe some of you might be in the tier 2 institutes only. It may or may not allow all PUs to be attained. Either the affiliating university has to see whether all the PUs they are able to attain, or we have to see ourselves. But what we do is, what a committee looks for is determine which PUs are attainable by the university curricula there. In case you have made this particular table there, and there will be leads to gaps which we can identify and list all the gaps. Maybe committee says whether these particular gaps you have shared with the university or not. Okay, design addition to the curricula to bridge these gaps and document all this process there. Maybe it's a good idea. In case I would have informed, that means I close this particular loop in this particular process there. Now, then one is your curricula, second part is your assessments. Assessment is assessment again, what we are assessing is all the 12 PUs there. Now, we prepare this sort of a course outcome and program outcome data. My tools are direct tools or indirect tools. Your maybe Professor Grover or others might have talked to you about these direct tools. Your tests, assignments, labs, seminar, industry training projects, or rubrics we call them, or indirect tools, your course and course survey, exit survey, faculty survey, alumni survey, program statistics, some statistics if you collect your course and surveys, how students feel once they have gone through a particular course here. Now, these days, NBA, there is a lot of impress upon this. For each of the course, there should be feedback mechanism there. And once we have got a feedback mechanism, and then the loop should close. Let's say you take the feedback of the delivery of a course from the students, and in case out of 120 students, my score for the attainment, my survey gives me, I had taught it very poorly. Because there are so many performers which have been designed these days for the course and surveys there. In case I know, this faculty member has not been able to deliver the course in the right way, then what is the mechanism which is there? Because this is what NBA looks for. I was not able to attain certain level of the satisfaction among the students. These are indirect tools. then how exactly my loop closes? Usually, there are things there. Have you conducted this course and survey there? You say yes. Then do you communicate it to your teacher there? There are very few places where this sort of thing is being communicated to the teacher. Then is there some higher authority who analyzes it and communicates the results to the teacher? That's again very few. And what sort of a remedial measures you think of? Let's say somebody taught a fluid mechanics course. He taught in a very bad way. Say most of the students were not satisfied by his teaching. Then director gets to know, or HOD gets to know, what is the remedial measure he has done. One is the teacher was informed and he was asked to improve upon what sort of resources he need to do it, and he then next time he is again given. Then maybe there is some improvement which has happened. That's what we part of continuous improvement there. I accept it. But in case again next year also it doesn't improve, that means there is something which is missing in the teacher. What should my remedial be? Let him go to other institute and learn this fluid mechanics from some of the good professors there. That can be one of the remedial measures. So this is what NB looks for these days. Your course and survey and your exit survey, how the delivery of the course was there, maybe your faculty surveys are there, alumni surveys are there, and program statistic. As I say, last 3 years, there is no improvement in teaching of a faculty member. Can I do something with that? So these are some of the indirect tools which we use for checking our attainments there. Now, as I said, each COs can be identified to address a subset of the POs there, and based on the number of a CO, the session is possible to identify the strength of a mapping. Maybe it's mapped very well, or moderately mapped, or it's a very low mapping there corresponding to this particular PO. This is what we say is the COPO matrix which is there. Maybe this is COPO matrix which is there. In case corresponding to one of the course analysis of structures to CO1, CO2, POs1, these are the POs which are mapped. This is highly mapped POs there. And this is, in case 2 is there, this is a slightly low mapping there. And in case 1 is there is a very low mapping with this particular PO there. So this is what we say is the COPO matrix here. So this is what we say our mapping which is there. Now, based on that only, we think about the CO attainments. How exactly we have to think about the attainments there. This assessment should be in alignment with the COs. Whatever COs are there, my assessment should be based on those only. Maybe I'll talk about this question paper in detail because I have to talk to you about Bloom's taxonomy in the next of the sessions. A question paper should be so set to assess all COs there. Maybe I'll expect in our day after session, what you do is, for all of you, you bring one of the question paper, corresponding to that you bring the syllabi also. Then we do this particular exercise because I was talking to Professor Grover, because usually we do this exercise. He says, Professor Soforth, how will you perform this assignment in the offline, in this particular online mode? Sure. Okay, how will you have this particular assessment there? Maybe I was successful in my first assignment, which I gave to you. Let me try this. Day after, I would like to try this. There's my request to all of you. Maybe again, I'll repeat. Maybe Vishal can again, or Dr. Huda can emphasize upon this. For my day after session, all of you should come out with one question paper which you set, and corresponding to that, what is the curricular syllabi for that particular paper there, where all the COs and the PO should be there. Then if we try to find out the average marks obtained in assessment against item for each CO will indicate of the CO attainment. So this is what we say. Okay, what sort of marks you obtained? Maybe I'll give you one thing also there. The average marks obtained in assessment against item for each CO will indicate the CO attainments there. And instructor can set target for each of the COs there. Maybe for each of the COs, I can define the weightages there. If this particular thing will meet this particular weightage, and then attainment gaps can be therefore be identified. In case my faculty sets up these targets, and then I look for attainment there. This is the most happening part as far as the NBA is concerned. What you set for each of the course, what is your attainment level? This is where most of the gaps are there in the NBA accreditation. Because outcome-based education says, okay, this is the most important activity which is there. You set the target and look for the attainment, then you look for the gaps that will lead you to the continuous improvement. But good or bad, there are very few institutes who understood this particular part. Because what has to be done is, this has to be imbibed into your delivery mechanism only. Whereas what is happening is, because people have to prepare for the 3 years back data only, then they are not comfortable in making this sort of change because they have not imbibed that particular part in the delivery mechanism. So that's why what has to be done is you have to identify the attainment levels. So in case I have not done it, then we try to do it because we say the afterthought things there. Maybe those of you who are from computer science only, I can say, okay, while you design any network, you don't think about the security. Then once somebody attack is there, then you try to work out on a security, then we say it's a patchwork. This is what is done by some of the institutes as a patchwork only. And good, there are people available who say, okay, I'll do it for you. I think that's what we shouldn't get into that particular game of this particular identification. You have to think about how exactly these gaps can be identified and taken care. Our instructor can plan to reduce attainment gaps or enhance attainment targets. Maybe if you imagine, I set my target at around 60%. And I'm able to attain it. That doesn't mean you have done very well. Because your targets were too low. That's why your attainment is there. Had I set my targets at 80%, perhaps had I attained it to 60%, then there is a gap there. And that gap has to be identified and mapped with improvement. So this is what one of the examples of exit surveys corresponding to PO1. Apply this exit surveys to what level you are able to apply science and engineering concept. Maybe your ratings are there and some values are there. And you say, okay, this is my weighted average in this particular case. And my attainment may be 70% or 60%. And to what extent you're able to analyze civil engineering problems. This is an exit survey which is there. Let's say while student is leaving, you would like to, because I can't say, okay, for each of the course what you've done. But in totality, if I try to find out from him to what extent he's able to do it, then I have to think about this sort of exit surveys in this particular scenario. This gives you some sort of attainments there. Maybe this is an example. For your exit surveys, you have to frame your own questions. Maybe this is related to civil engineering, you have to correlate with your own branch of the engineering and make it. And this is how you have to correlate with the POs there. In case I would like to see an ability to apply knowledge of mathematics, science, and engineering, I have to find out from him how much engineering concept you could apply for problem solving. Now, this is result of attainment of PO through semester end exams. Let's say I kept corresponding to each, these are my POs there, and analysis of structure or this environment engineering or this particular, all these are nothing but what is the percentage of marks. Based on the marks only, I decide. Let's say in case I got only one test, I'm not because what a ideal situation is, in case I have to think about attainment, I have to think about, let's say, corresponding. I correlate each of the question with the PO or a CO there. Then I think of how each question helping me in attainment. But yes, I agree. This is a very difficult task to the extent what we need in this sort of scenario is once I'm checking a question corresponding to each student, I have to find out how many marks we got in first question, second question, third question, fourth question, fifth question. And based on that, I do the analysis corresponding to each of the POs here. But yes, those of you who have gone for the automation of evaluation also, because there are so many places where your answer sheets are being scanned and you are able to find out what sort of marks are there in this space. But this is an example where it may be based on some of the course where only the last end term exams are there, and based on that only this particular end term exams are there, and this is what we try to find out the attainment level for each of them. How do I find out in this sort of scenario? I try to find out all the marks there. Let's say marks scored by the students, then divided by, I find out the mean, and then mean gives me this is my attainment level. Let's say there are some students who would have scored 60%, there will be some 70%, there will be some 80%. Then you total them all and divide it by the number of students. That's a very layman sort of a method which is followed by some other institutes. Then they try to find out, okay, this is my attainment with this sort of a scenario. Now, this is what we have got as far as your attainments are there. Now, another thing, there is no one final formula through which we do it. There are institutes who are adopting their own mechanism for this. You as an institute can think about your own targets, how will you set the targets, and how will you attain those sort of targets. One is, as I gave you the example, your CO POs can be mapped with the questions also. Another is, let's say I assume one quiz, we can just correlate it with only one PO there. In that case, my attainment will be corresponding to that particular PO from that particular quiz in this particular regard. So this is what we say. How do you just go for this sort of a evaluation, this sort of a scenario? Then we try to give weightage for each of them. Let's say for the direct assessment, I give 50%. For the continuous evaluation, I give 50%. For the final exam, I give 30%. Student survey, I give 10%. 5% end-term survey. Faculty survey, 5%. This is what I define for each of my measurable things. How exactly I'm trying to survey there, and this is what becomes my PO attainment level. So this is what my POs are there, and this is what my tools through which I would like to measure them, and I will be able to attain in this particular scenario. So this is what we say, this is weightage for PO attainment in sort of a scenario. The PO 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we say are the attainments here. Right? Maybe, as I said, each institute have their own mechanism on the things there. But if I document this, that will clarify to the work with visiting committee. A PO attainment is all POs are adequately addressed through the selection of the courses and their COs there. And as I said, attainment targets can be selected there. And this performance of the students that will can indicate the CO attainments there, and they are the tools through which you go for the continuous improvement in the quality of the learning in this sort of a scenario. Now, then we come to the continuous improvement. Okay, how my continuous improvement, because let's say we started with what sort of design strategies are there, what it should be balanced, it should be able to answer all the POs there. Then next stage, I just make this COPO mapping there. Then in the next level, what I do is I set the targets for each of the course, what sort of a, attainment I would like to have. Then I work out on my tools, maybe direct mechanism, indirect mechanism, through which I try to improve or attain level, look for the attainment. Then I look for the gaps. If these are some of the gaps which are there as far as this particular system is concerned. But now, let's say a corresponding to a particular course, there are for one course there are gaps of a very high level of gaps there. For the other, there is a very low gaps there. Now, I had to think about how exactly we can think about this continuous improvement in this sort of scenario. That's what we see, the continuous improvement, and there is a lot of emphasis as far as this particular part is concerned. There is a separate section 7 which is there, in which we talk about this particular continuous. This will complete your loop. Okay, you design a course, made the curricula, made the COPO mapping, then you've gone for setting the targets, then your attainment, and based on that attainment, I had to improve upon. How will I improve? If I go back to my curricula. So this is what NBA looks for. Are you closing this particular loop or not? For a course level, is this particular loop is being closed or not? This loop is to be closed for the courses as well as for the program also. Now, this all attainment analysis is made to provide continuous improvement either through course delivery or through assessment or curriculum. So this is what we see the sense of the outcome-based education. Okay, this completes one loop. Okay, how course is delivered, assessed, and the curricula is made in this sort of situation. So this is usually we say this is the definition or a perspective of a continuous improvement. A program must regularly use appropriate documented processes. This documented process is an important component in this. Your processes should be appropriate, they should be well documented for assessing and evaluating the extent to which the student outcome are being attained. So we have to look for extent to what student outcome are being attained. Maybe ideally, my attainment should be 100%, which is nowhere in a history you would have attained 100%. But what is the extent to which you attain is what is important. And the results of these evaluation must be systematically utilized as input for the continuous improvement of the program. Now, whatever are your attainments are there, they are the ones which has to be used for the continuous improvement of the program. Maybe there are maybe other input which comes in this particular way. In this particular way comes out the information why I am not able to attain some of the attainment level which I kept. My equipment which is there in the labs is not complete. So this is another additional information become that will help me in strengthening my infrastructure. So that's what I said. Current criteria is concerned about this. Maybe PO is important, but it's relevant to vision and a vision of the program. Maybe they are we call it a central or short-term and long-term improvement in the pedagogy which is there. So this is what we say is a backward design. Okay, what is my desirable order of a goals? Okay, my students' learning should improve. If I look at how do you call a good institute, or to call an average institute, or call a bad institute? Usually these days, student might be coming to you, should I go to this particular institute? You say no. what is your criteria for saying no, don't go there? What is your criteria for saying Bharatiya Vidyapeeth in Delhi is a pretty good institute and other institute in Noida may not be good? These are some what we say is in case I can think about a student learning the four-dimension knowledge, skills, attitude, and behavior. This is my goal. I have to think about case improve student learning, and this makes your perception of the institute also. Why in Delhi, Bharatiya Vidyapeeth is the top institute, not the other ones. Maybe maybe they might have defined their goals like this, or improve learning environment, or faculty efficiency and accountability to the stakeholder. This is where most of the institute lack. Are they accountable to students? Now the days is coming, student, this relationship is having a changes. Now it's I pay for this particular service, I had to get this particular service. That is a concept which is coming in education also. If I pay the fees, I must expect this sort of services from the institute there and accreditation. So this is what we say are your backward design. This is your goals for setting up a good institute, which should go give a good curricula. But this is how your goals are being seen by different people. Now their goals are, I must get the program accredited without bothering about how students feel, how my stakeholders are there. So that's where you fail. Because why I want accreditation? Because that will give me quality measure. Whether I got the quality measure or not, it's not important. So this is what on faculty efficiency and improve student learning. So maybe your priorities are not in the same order. It should be there. And accountability to stakeholder is the last priority, which is that's why there's a lot of dissatisfaction among the students as far as the institutes are concerned. And faculty has to be involved for the continuous improvement there. Participation and engagement there. Is the focus right? Now, instead, what we want to do is instead of saying instead of what do we have to do to get MBA? Because this is the usual question. Because we visit so many institutes, some of the institute they say, "कि अरे हमें क्या करना चाहिए MBA accreditation हो जाए." MBA accreditation is a process through which you have to pass. Only then you get it. It's an automatic process, I would say. In case you follow the processes, there's no reason why you'll not get an MBA. But if you run after MBA accreditation, maybe you'll face problem. Instead of what do we do to get MBA accreditation, focus should be how can we improve student learning there. In case we go for this improved student learning, our processes will be fast in this particular process there. Maybe your goals of assessment is information decision making, transformation assessment. You use assessment to understand and then enhance student learning and change pedagogy, modify course or facilities, redesign curricula. And you go for assessment, not for exam. This is where outcome education is very clear. If we have to assess the student, we are not to examine the student. Maybe exam could be a part of the assessment, but exams are not the only assessment which we are looking for. So this is what we need as for the transformation of things there. That's what usually NVT income, they ask you, after how many years you go for a curricular revision. Some would have not revised their curriculum for the last 10 years. That means they lost all the information which has come for the continuous improvement. Maybe what is the information basis which you have got? Maybe your smart data collection is a key, useful, maybe relevant exam question focus. And I'll talk about this while we discuss about this Bloom's taxonomy, and sufficient to provide reasonable basis for the actions, maybe your data information and the sufficient granularity. This is so. That's what closing the loop. In most of the institute seeking accreditation, this quality assurance, this is continuous improvement, is one of the weakest link which is there. They plan up a curricula, they do no modification. The same teacher is teaching the same course in the same way. There's no improvement there. So all this they form the part of the. In case I have to close the loop, I have to think about all these aspects. And most of the institute, they fail to spend enough effort in closing this loop. Maybe there are several reasons for this also, why continuous improvement is not there. Maybe I will not say lack of leadership, but yes, leadership does have an impact upon this. It's not an individual effort. It's not that one faculty improves, the system will improve. It's a formal collective process improvement which has to be there in this scenario. So that's why we call it as a weakest link. And your non-compliant faculty usually is too busy. Because good or bad, faculty do a lot of things. We are falling lack of faculty. Maybe there are institutes who are short of faculty. That's what these days there is a lot of emphasis upon ratio. Faculty ratio 1:15, 1:20. Up to what level we can drag our faculty. So this is what we say as a non-compliant faculty, which is too busy in this sort of a scenario. So all these are what we have to do for the continuous improvement there. We have got this sort of a scenario there, where we have got a curriculum, we have got a process for making this curriculum, and then we have got this process of effectively delivering this curriculum based on your COPO mapping attainments, and then your continuous improvement. This is one cycle which has to be completed. I think that's what I thought I'll discuss with you. Maybe I'll go open for the question.
Sir, it would be nice, I mean, for our purpose, if you could actually show us with some example in terms of, how to calculate the attainment level of COs and POs. I mean, if an example would be
that's
given.
what I'll tell you. The way I have planned is, today I had discussed about all these things. Tomorrow I'll be taking up examples there, because this is how we have designed the this particular program. Tomorrow,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
2 hours where we'll be discussing about what. I'll take a strategy of institute, one of the institute, and how this calculation has been done, and what sort of a result has to be shown. That I'll do.
That will be of great help, sir. Yeah, that will be of great help.
That's
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, Vishal.
So, dear
This is what
participants,
I
if you
thought
have
I'll discuss with you. And now I'm open for a question also.
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, it would be very nice if you can give some guidelines on the attainment, like a calculation of COPO attainment. A few guidelines, if you can provide that, it would be very nice. I understand that example you may be explaining tomorrow. So along with that, if you can provide the guidelines, that would be really helpful. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I would say this. Okay, every institute has to make their own guidelines, but I'll share one of the guidelines with one of the institute affiliating institutes, and I'll go for the calculation route. This is what I have planned for the tomorrow. Well, you need guidelines. I'll give you the guidelines also. I got a document there. This is what I have planned out.
Sir, could you add on how to map these assessments for each of this course outcomes to Bloom's taxonomy? How we could map this up to back to Bloom's taxonomy level?
Dr. Prakash, I would say I have got one session with me where I will be correlating this Bloom's taxonomy with your curricula, with your question paper.
Okay.
Because this is what is most important component. That's what I requested everyone. On the day after, you come out with your curricula for one of the course and one of the question paper there. So
Okay.
that's a practical session where I'll show you how exactly Bloom's taxonomy has to be implemented and how exactly your attainments are not there. Because you yourself will say, okay, this particular curricula is there, this question paper is there, final question paper, but my attainment as far as this particular question paper is there is only 60 to 70% only.
Right.
It will lead you to the improvement there. I'll not worry, question reserve for one day, 1 or 2 days. I'll answer that.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can
Thank
I-
you.
Okay, it's fine.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir. This is related to the setting targets. Is there any
Okay.
benchmark for setting the targets? If yes, what are the requirements there? How do we really set that benchmark for setting targets?
There is no benchmarking there. Every institute before taking up a course has to set up a targets there. The targets are based on the last time teaching which I have done. Let's say last time I taught, I kept my target as a 90%, but I am able to attain only 60%. There is a lot of gaps there. But can I cover up this gap within 6 months or 1 year there? No. Then I had to refine my targets. Let's say I'm setting up a 80% target. I lower my targets, improve upon there. Maybe my gap between what I target, what I achieve will be reducing this order. But there is no
If in case, sir, if in case the subject is taught by other faculty in
Yes.
previous session, and this time another faculty takes, so usually it is taken from the previous one of the target. One of the ways is that we have to look at the former teaching also.
Yeah, because this is what we say is the progressive course file making. Progressive course.
Okay.
Okay, the moment you teach a course, the course file in the next semester will be transferred to the next new faculty who is teaching this course, and they are the ones who will work out on that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other question?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoons.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'll answer to you. Yes.
Yes. So my question is, sir, when we want to change the syllabus, sir, actually
When?
to get the PU attainment, it will take 4 years. For
Yes.
PU attainment, to get,
What we usually say is, in case a syllabus has gone through one cycle, that means in case 4 years have passed for a curricula, then the 5th year you think about making some sort of a changes based upon whatever are the feedback which has come from the stakeholders. Maybe as I gave you the example, in case teacher is the one, faculty is the one who's teaching, he says this particular part needs little have more emphasis, this has got a more emphasis here. In case that is a course, that is the course file summary there. From there onwards, you can work out on that. And in the mean process, your exit survey, which you conduct for the passing out student, they are the ones who will give you feedback about that particular content there. So then that can give you the idea how exactly you can improve on that. And there are different mechanisms being followed by different institutes. Just like in my institute, in case teacher feels if this particular content needs to be modified, while teaching also he can modify those with the permission of the chairman senate. But in case of affiliating history, this sort of a thing is not there. So it depends upon in which sort of a environment you are there for making this sort of continuous government changes.
okay. Thank you, sir.
I answer your question.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one question from Dr. Dheeraj Joshi.
Okay.
How can we differentiate between attitude and behavior in context of student learning?
Because basically these are attitude, behavior, these are more towards the social aspect there. I can't say that they are different to each other as far as, because basically what we need is there is one component there, ethics there. As a PO 9 or 10, one PO is there, which is that both of them gets covered up under that. And this particular aspect, attitude and behavior, you take up during your internship there, where you work in a team, or you do in a project work, or you do in a assignments.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
There is one question from Dr. Ashish. How to
Yes.
set an attainment for a course?
Eh,
Is there any, sir, parameters by which we can determine the attainment for any college or institute?
it's basically it's a continuous process, I would say. Let's say if I teach a course, I have got a attainment of a 60% there. Now I think about improving that particular course. What I do is I just set my target as 70% and work on that, and that can help me in improvement. It's a continuous process, I would say.
So, sir, if a institute is going for the NB accreditation first time, so what should be the attainment?
No, because data is there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
For let's say I taught a course because what NB looks for is your attainment level for 3 years.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
say first year target level, then second year same course is being taught. Your targets level will be either low or it will be made high. So it's not a 1 year data which NBA works out. It works for 3 data, and it's based on a continuous improvement. Your attainment level keeps on changing.
Okay.
Your target.
Thank you, sir. Yes, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So there are two questions. In assessment, there are two types of tools, direct and indirect. So how much is the weightage for both of them? Is it 50-50 or more for direct and less?
So that again depends upon the institute also. There are
Yeah.
who are going for 80-20 also, 80 for the direct, 20 for the indirect assessment. There are some who are going for the 70-30. There's so many models which are there.
Okay.
Your
Uh, yeah. Next question is in indirect tools. There are many assessments or tests are there. So one is the faculty survey. So means faculty has to give. There is one faculty survey in indirect tools.
yeah.
So what is expected from the faculty there? Means is for a particular course.
I'll tell you, faculty has to give the feedback about the delivery mechanism for a curricula. Let's say a curricula is being delivered, then from there, for a continuous improvement, I have to say what sort of improvement are required in this particular curricula for making the changes into that. Maybe it's since it's a 3 years data. So once I got a 3 years data, I can crystallize, okay, this is the improvement required in this particular curriculum.
Right. And the second, this one, Karam statistics. What does it mean in indirect tools?
Statistics is another tool. Let's say what we say in statistics. Let's say marks of statistics for me. Based on this, I do some data analytics. I come out with some sort of inferences. Maybe some courses are very tough. Attainment level is usually low in that. So that will be defined by my statistics on.
So last question. There are the attainments for CO individual course, and then there is a attainment for a program, like final overall program. So how this relation is there? Means do you have to have two attainments, one for each course and one for the final?
Your course attainments drives your program attainment also. Let's say if case I had taught 20 courses, my attainment in each of the course is 70%, then my program attainment will also be average out to be 70%.
Average. Okay, it's average. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir, is there
Yes.
any minimum period before which course cannot be updated? Like some courses introduced last year, and if I
No,
see this time there should be some modification. Is it okay?
usually it's a 2 batches should have passed for a program, only then you can go for the accreditation.
So there is a one question from Dr. P. Ravindra.
Okay.
In what way PO attainment improvement can be shown to the committee member for the last 2 batches?
No, that is through your course files only. Let's say I make the course file, I make the progressive course file there. In one course file, this will be there. In the other course file, in the same course file will be there for the next year also. That will show whether there is an improvement there or there is no improvement there.
Thank you, sir, for the query solving. And there is another question from Dr. S.T. Rama. Does the target depend upon the student's intake in each course, each year of a course?
No, that's what I'm saying. It depends upon your continuous improvement. Let's say
Yes.
initially the target, then what is the achievement? Let's say you observe students are very poor in this particular batch. Your attainment is only 50%. Then maybe next year also you observe the students have got the same level. You just reduce your attainment level to 65% or something level. So that's how it's basically continuous improvement, or based on the feedback only you are to improve or at this particular level.
Thank you, sir. And there is a last question from Dr. Bhuvneshwari. Do we need to take exit survey for both program and every course?
You have to take exit survey because there are 2 surveys I talked about. One is exit course survey, that is for every course one is delivered, but there is another is exit survey. Once a student is passing out, at the time you take up that particular exit survey. Once in 4 years, I would say once he is graduating.
And Dr. P. Ravindra sir has already cleared this query that how can we set the target for the PO attainment. So I'm taking the next question by Dr. J. Raja. Is the level of mapping affect the PO attainment?
Mapping of?
Sir, mapping affect the PO attainment, level of mapping.
Yes, the way I have mapped the POs, let's say you imagine you have done some mapping and corresponding to one course you have met with the 6 or 7 POs there. But while setting your question paper or assignment or quiz, another thing, you couldn't map it there. Then obviously it will have an impact upon the course attainment level also.
Sir, there is another question from Dr. Ashish. He would like to, for a particular question paper set, according to a COPO mapping, how do we calculate attainment?
Maybe while I'll give you example tomorrow, we'll do that. I'll show you.
What
I said is,
solve in the
it
tomorrow
depends
session.
upon the institute. There are
Yes,
some
sir.
institutes going by the question paper mapping out, question wise mapping also. Some are going by the whole question paper as well. I'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for clearing all the queries. Now I'm hand over to Hoda, sir.
So is there any other participant who wants to ask anything or clear any doubt connected to today's session? Because today's session was foundation for tomorrow's session. So if you understood today's session, then only the practice session tomorrow will happen. Tomorrow is the case study approach. Yeah, you can, sir, when I get pharmacy question paper also, you have to bring your own pharmacy question paper. Ask the question and the syllabus. The syllabus and the question both are required.
Sir, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, it would be very nice if the template which you use for COPO attainment, there is a template. So if that template can be shown to us once using this link, and the meaning, what is actually expected there, if it is explained before
That's what I said.
starting the before starting the activity, hands-on activity, That would be very helpful.
Sure. Tomorrow I'll show you the template first, then I'll go for the activity. That's what I.
So participants are asking for your contact details. So can you please write your email ID at the chat window, sir?
Okay, sure. Maybe sharing I can stop.
Yeah, you can stop sharing. And here, tomorrow's session is on case study basis. So come back with your any one syllabus and related to that syllabus, any one question paper of anyone, and whatever is available. And do join latest by 11 because we mean time in a little manner. So once the session starts at 11, and if you join after that little late, so you may miss many of the things. So please do not miss it. It's a 2 hours forenoon, 2 hours afternoon. Be sure that at that time you are available. So let's pay attention to this, and few documents I have already circulated to all of you. Please go through the document and see to it that you read it, and wherever you have doubt, questions, you note it somewhere, so that it is not spontaneous. Whatever comes to your mind, you have also done some homework and prepared yourself that these are my questions connected to this session, which will be asking to the valued resource person in this particular session. Of course, if there are few questions which in these sessions have not been answered, then probably, or you could not ask it, then probably that can go to the last session of open house. But be prepared to ask question with the concerned resource person, at least related to his or her session. Yeah, Professor Sofat has already written his contact.
Yeah, I had written my email address. Anyone, I'm welcome. Everyone is welcome to send me email. Even if there is query there, I will answer there also.
Right. And thank you so much, Professor Sofat. It was a wonderful session. I think for tomorrow morning session, a sound technical background has been included now. And I wanted to tell the participants that day after tomorrow, there is a again session by sir in which we will be discussing how to design outcome-oriented question paper. Is it, sir?
Yeah. This is
So
what
if
my
there is
plan
a-
is.
if there is a syllabus
Bloom's
before you,
taxonomy.
how to ensure that OB-based question paper be framed so that your mapping, so that your attainment becomes easy. That is one aspect. The second aspect is the purpose of OB is being fulfilled. That's what we are talking
Yeah.
since first lecture. That can we make outcome-based education as a philosophy in our day-to-day curriculum, day-to-day learning process? Can we make it as a culture? So that purpose will be fulfilled if you make your question paper considering the outcome-based education philosophy. That session is the after tomorrow morning. So be prepared, do not be late, and thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Wonderful session, good interaction. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for the participants also. It's a wonderful answering
Correct.
question
Correct.
session. Thank you so much.
Okay.